Okay. Let me take a gulp. Sound off your phone, Dave.
What are you drinking there, Omar?
Seltzer water. Bubbly, sparkly bubbly water. Blueberry flavor. I'm a huge seltzer water fan ever since I was a little kid. I used to sit in my kitchen because you know when you have a house full of people, there's very rarely anything that you can get all to yourself. So I developed a taste for seltzer water, and because nobody else liked it, it was all mine.
It's yours.
So I used to sit at the countertop, pour myself a nice seltzer water in one of my dad's like drinking glasses, like you know what the stuff you put whiskey in or whatever you guys drink. What's that stuff you guys drink that
Wait, you don't drink it?
Not really. I don't drink alcohol anymore.
I don't drink whiskey. You don't drink. You made it through the pandemic without any alcohol?
Actually, yeah, I stopped drinking during the pandemic. Alcohol
that is
gives me
a feat in
headaches.
itself. Good for you.
It's you know, I don't
Wait, I got to spend all this time with my family in the pandemic, and I can't have alcohol. Is that what you're saying? Is that
Hey, to each his own. The only reason I stopped drinking, one, I'm just only a social drinker, and two, it gives me migraines. So I'm like, no, it's not worth it. I did drink yesterday though. It's a social thing. Yeah. We ready to rock? All right. The end of the 2020 season has arrived. Ultimately, 10 wins was not enough to get the Miami Dolphins into the playoff. The 56-26 dismantling the Buffalo Bills delivered, Brian Flores' team, ensured that the 2020 season wouldn't be carried into the postseason. How did this year's spunky Dolphins get spanked so badly by the new AFC East champions, the kings of the division? We'll discuss that on this week's X's and Omar. I'm your host, Omar Kelly. This is Sentinel Hall of Fame columnist, Dave Hyde. See, if I'm in the Hall of Fame, if I'm in any Hall of Fame, Dave, I want it mentioned every time I'm introduced. Dave.
Humility, Omar. Humility. I got a new set here. You like my set though?
I do. In the backyard, I'm kind of jealous. It's very tropical.
And one of the comments was it looks like a prison cell I was in. So I'm trying to branch out a little here. So we'll see how it goes.
Dave, what happened last Sunday that surprised you?
56 points. I mean, start there. The number one rated scoring defense collapsed, and Josh Allen, you know, and they didn't completely collapse. The first series, you get an interception, and you think,
oh yeah,
okay, they're on their way. They
quarter they were good.
42, and from there it was see you in 2021 to the defense, because Josh Allen and the Bills had their way in a way, you know, no team has had really over a full game. The Chiefs did for a huge chunk in their game. But now they went up against another very good offense, and they didn't show.
Yeah, the number one defense in the league. Miami had been top 3 for everything but the first month of the season, and they finished at 6 because of that spanking that Brian Daboll and his offense and the Bills' backups, let's make sure that's brought into the equation, did to Miami starters. And I am surprised that a Brian Flores team buckled to the pressure of the playoffs. I just, you know, I am not
the. Think they buckled to the pressure, or they just weren't good enough? I mean, there's a difference.
The first game they were good enough. I mean, if
Josh Allen had his way in the first game, 4 passes, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, but the game was close. It surprised me that this wasn't closer. And I'm not going to blame the fact that it wasn't close on the turnovers, even though 2 or 3 turnovers. Um, I think you know how I feel about Brian Daboll. We've talked about this on this show. He's probably the best offensive coordinator I've seen covering the Dolphins, with the exception of Chan Gailey. I debated whether or not I like Chan Gailey better. We'll discuss that later on in the show. And he is the way he attacked Nick Needham. It was so genius in terms of how he dismantled their defense. He is clearly ready to be a head coach in the NFL. I'm curious to see what happens in this cycle of openings. But let's get to the important news of the day. Chan Gailey has resigned, and I truly do believe he's resigned. I do believe, because ESPN.
You throw it up in air quotes. Resigned.
That's what the fans. That's what the fans think he's fired, and they are celebrating Chan Gailey's exit. And I make the argument to you, Dave, and I still stand by this, that Chan Gailey has done a good job as the Dolphins offensive coordinator. Let me get you an important statistic here. Under Chan Gailey's tutelage, as the play caller for one season, the Dolphins have scored 404 points. Yes, special teams contributed a lot to that. Jason Sanders had like 140 points, obviously. And then they scored a couple points on defense, and Jakeem Grant had one return. But every year, Dolphins defense and special teams score points. So that 404 points is the most the Dolphins have scored scored in a season in 34 years, Dave. 34 years.
You mean more than an Adam Gase offense here? Are you kidding me?
That's funny. I mean, and let's be honest about this. He did it with a rookie quarterback starting the majority of the season. He did it with a lackluster run game and offensive line, and he did it with a disappointing wide receiver unit. So, but Dolphin fans are celebrating his departure, and
I don't get that. I get, let's narrow that down. Two of fanboys are celebrating his departure because they blamed all Tua's struggles on Chan Gailey. And look, there is a question of why the ball wasn't thrown downfield more with Tua. I get that. That's a legitimate question. But to say
a simple answer to that. Most of their play call was RPO, which the ball has to get out the quarterback's hands quickly. Otherwise, it's an illegal receiver downfield because the offensive line is run blocking.
Well, I'm not taking that side, but it's a legitimate question. You got to throw the ball downfield more. I mean, you just have to in the NFL.
To who?
Okay.
To who?
Well, Fitz threw the ball downfield.
Give me one. Give me one option to throw it downfield, Dave.
Gesicki could run downfield.
Oh, okay. I'm waiting for a tight end. It probably takes him a tight end who is slow off the line of scrimmage. And let's be real about it. He's a long strider. He's slow. And so it takes maybe, 5 seconds for him to get downfield? Do you have the protection?
Omar, let's not belabor this. I'm saying they threw the ball downfield with Fitz. They didn't throw the ball down with much with Tua, okay? And my point with Chan Gailey is you knew this was a well-coached team. They ranked third in the league, this offense, in first quarter points. So they were prepared coming into games. They had a game plan to attack, and they did very well. They took advantage. Now, the NFL is a game about adjustments too, and when you don't have the personnel to adjust, it's much easier for a defense to all of a sudden start jumping your routes.
I think they did adjustments well.
Down the only things you can do. So I have no problem with Chan Gailey this year at all either. It was a little mystery to me why he returned after being out of the league 3 years and not missing it. He said, he never really thought about it. He helped his son in high school. And now there's a little mystery. He just said he's had enough. So I mean, mystery each way. But I wish him well. I liked how he carried himself.
I honestly don't think he enjoyed his time here.
Now, well, it was a tough year. I mean, between the pandemic, and he came back. He obviously loved Ryan Fitzpatrick, and if you're the coach and you're the offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we all knew was the better quarterback in this finite timeline, but not for the Dolphins franchise. They had to play Tua, and so there was probably a lot of mixed. I don't know. There's mystery here. I'm not pretending I know anything that anybody else did, but there had to be some conflicted feelings over that.
I don't think he enjoyed his time here. This is going to be the third offensive coach hire that Brian Flores has had to make. And honestly, I just feel like Chan was like, I don't got to put up with this. None of it. And walked away. He wasn't coaching for the money. So.
Well, he probably was coaching for the money. He came back probably for the money. I mean, let's be honest, right?
I think he's got more than enough money. I don't think Chan everybody could use more money, but yeah, I think he's old. He wants to enjoy his life. He wasn't enjoying this, and he expressed in the final month of the season that the pandemic had really put some challenges into it, and the things that he had enjoyed about coaching football weren't really there.
Yeah.
Our first question comes from Jamie. Was getting spanked by the Bills a blessing in disguise, Dave? Serving as a reality check on where this team really is?
No, there's no blessing in disguise about getting whipped by 30 points on a day you can. And this wasn't the prime idea of the season, but you could have got in the playoffs, okay? And you didn't put up a fight. So there's no blessing in disguise there. Everybody should have known. And you don't need that to know the Dolphins are still a ways away. They have phase 2 of their rebuilding plan this year with a big draft coming. They invested a lot into that. That you still need rookies to grow up into what? You're not really certain what just yet. So, no, you didn't need that whipping to tell you that you're still a long way away from where
I disagree with you. I think it is a blessing in disguise because if we look at the last 2 times that they got into the playoffs and got smacked, they were like, whoa, we just need a couple pieces here and there and we should be able to, be different. And it wasn't the reality. No matter, I think outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers, no matter who the Dolphins played in the first round, they would have probably gotten smacked.
Yeah.
And
so they got smacked here. I mean, so how's that a blessing?
Because it's more of a reality check to Dolphin fans. And I don't think Chris Greer thought they were close. Because I remember, and I think I've shared this before, a conversation we had coming into the 2017 season. I was all excited. I wrote a column. I was super excited. They'd made moves, getting Adam Gase, all of his toys and his weaponry. And Chris Greer came up to me and was just like, yo, we're not that close. And I was just like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're not that close. We're not that good. Like, calm down. And it was a reality check that he knew they're not there. And I think of everybody, he knows they're not close.
But did you need that to tell you? Did you need it? You need it?
Yes. Because Buffalo
they have no playmakers on offense, and you knew that going into the Bills game.
True.
They have a defense that they have a couple really good players and a lot of system.
Name the couple.
Well, you know the one.
name the other.
Okay, they got Xavier Howard and
Xavier Howard. Okay,
moving them around.
That's second best defensive player, Dave.
Well, that's a debate, and you're proving my point that they knew they weren't there. They didn't need the Bills game to tell them that. Everybody just knew it. No, and to your point, 2008 when they did make the playoffs, in 2016 should just confirm they weren't of what they really know now. They didn't need that game to tell them that they weren't there. They're not. Okay, Andre has our next question. Of all 16 games, which game's performance do you think is closest to match the reality of this team?
Well, I think that there are 3 important victories to this season. I think the Rams game is probably the most impressive game that's actually their only victory against a playoff team this season. And the way that they outcoached the Rams was quite impressive. The Cardinals' victory is kind of is Tua's best performance of the season. And then the Raiders game where, Ryan Fitzpatrick pulled it out his butthole. It's that was probably the most enjoyable win of the season. But I think if we had to say which game is more of a reflection of who the Dolphins are, it would probably be the Raiders game, because they just weren't playing that good. They got out coached, and they still managed to figure out a way to deliver the victory. And I think that's what this team is. They're a very opportunistic team, and they took advantage of an opportunity.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. The Raiders game was, cotton candy for a football fan. It was pure sugar rush there in the fourth quarter going back. It was a lot of fun. And then you get the most bizarre play you're going to see, even with the Miami Miracle. I put it up there with the Miami Miracle.
Can't beat the Miami Miracle. Nothing beats the Miami Miracle.
But I'll throw in another game, the Chiefs game. They're down, in the fourth quarter, and they put a rally, put a little scare. They made a game of it against.
Chiefs took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, the Chiefs were playing the clock instead of the Dolphins, but to the Dolphins' credit, they still came back and made it a game at the end. So, but yeah, as you said, they beat one playoff team. So when you say what was the best victory, look, they took care of business against teams they were on equal footing with talent-wise a lot of times, and good for them. They maxed the season.
Ben wants to know, what do the Dolphins need to do to avoid the 2009 and 2007 letdown? And also, would re-signing Fitz, assuming he wants to, constitute enough of a QB competition in your eyes, or do you want someone else who can also be the quarterback of the future, Dave?
Well, let's start here. I'd be shocked if Fitz is back. Okay, from his standpoint, I'd be shocked. Why would he want to come back if he has a chance? And there's so many teams out there that need a quarterback. Now, a lot of them need a young quarterback, but some of them will need a quarterback. And you look at Fitz, you might squeeze a year out of him. And look at the way he played this year. But I'm sure he's looking for a situation like that if he wants to keep playing rather than step back in here. And the other part of that equation is, do the Dolphins want him back? On the day they announced Tua as the starter for next meeting, all other big questions are off the board for a quarterback. Fitz was voted by teammates as the leader of the team. I mean, that's a statement of, Brian Flores kept saying it's Tua's team, it's Tua's team, it wasn't Tua's team. The players decided that it was Fitz's team. And the one way to make it Tua's team, unfortunately, not the way, but one way is to say goodbye to Fitz. Then Tua has to earn. So,
yeah, it's sad, but I think to address the question, 2009 and 2017, Tony Sparano really led the late, great Tony Sparano. I still respect him. Tough, smart, physical team. Huh?
I love Tony. All right. I thought he was...
that team wasn't going to beat themselves. And Chad Pennington led them, and then Chad Pennington got hurt, and it is what it is. We had the Chad Henne era, which was a waste of 3 years. And then the Jay Ajayi Adam Gase year, that was just a unicorn product, a physical run team. Adam Gase really had to change who he was and become a running team, and we saw his struggles doing that. And it just wasn't part of their identity or who he wanted to be. But I think Brian Flores has a very clear and defined identity of who he wants to be. The question is, can he get there offensively, and can they keep it going on defense?
Well, yeah. And that gets to the offensive coordinator. As you mentioned earlier, they're going to have 3 coordinators and 3 systems in 3 years. So when you say they know who they want to be, I mean, okay, but get there, okay, and stay there. And so that would be the way to avoid a letdown.
Speaking of offensive coordinators, we got to talk about some of these possibilities here. There's a lot of talk about Bill O'Brien, who is a former Patriots assistant. Brian Flores worked under him on the offensive side of the football.
He also Bill O'Brien, maybe he knew what he was doing. He gave the Dolphins the third pick in the draft this year with that crazy trade, as it turns out.
We owe Bill O'Brien a thank you.
It didn't look so beautiful on the edge of a season when all of a sudden your star left tackle's gone.
And your top receiver. People forget about that.
Yeah. Well, the timing of it all was but it all worked out. The Dolphins got really lucky. 26th pick from Houston last year, and this year's pick moves all the way up to third. So they got lucky with that one.
How do you feel about George Godsey, he is the tight end coach. When they started having coaches going to the sideline because of the coronavirus, Godsey was in there heavy with influence with Tua, and then he never stopped working with Tua. He's a former offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans. Thoughts?
Omar, my thoughts is Brian Flores has got to get this right. Whether it's Godsey, whether it's O'Brien, he's got to get this one right, okay, and move forward that way. And I don't know Godsey's background and his but I agree with you. The fact he was working with Tua says something about their relationship. I would hope, but I don't want to read too much into anything right now.
Let's get to fire off the final question of this segment. Noop 924001, a lot of numbers there. Is Dolphins owner Steve Ross happy with this rebuild so far? And is he spending again this spring, Dave?
He always spends. Let's not say this spring.
He doesn't spend the first year of the head coach. That for 2 straight coaches, he didn't spend the first year.
But Omar, that's a philosophical decision of the football side more than Steve Ross. Steve Ross.
He wants to spend.
He's the dad who says, "Here's the credit card. Go have fun." Okay, and so
is that your parenting style, Dave?
I wish I had a dad like that. I've heard of dads like that. I never really was around one. So he'll spend whatever they ask him to spend, and within smart reason. Is he happy? Of course, yeah. They won 10 games, and if you're the Dolphins, you say we are on track for
ahead of track. Actually, they're ahead of track. They've got $33 million in cap space this offseason. But you're like,
that's not much.
Peanuts to you, Dave?
Well, look, the Jets have 2.5 that. The Patriots have 2.5 that. So when you were putting it in, relation, that's really not that much money.
That's about 5 good players. I would say. And they can create another about $15 million easily doing some restructuring or some releases. So,
let me go back to this. Why are they ahead? Why? And you wrote a column, a good column, saying they had a massive success. Why? Why do you say that?
The win total, the philosophical, the defensive approach. Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Emmanuel Ogbah, Shaq Lawson. Those guys help Brian Flores install the defense that he wants, and obviously Raekwon Davis and Nick and Andrew Van Ginkel. The system is there. Now you just add a couple pieces here and there. I still say they need an inside linebacker. I still say they need a better defensive tackle, but it's there. They definitely need a pass rusher because nobody can beat a guy one-on-one. So now you just tinker with it, and maybe instead of finishing 6th, you will finish first. So I think, and coaching development, player development, it's so there, and they should be proud of what they accomplished.
Yeah, here's my question: I think they're on course for what they want to do. I wouldn't say they're ahead, or they were ahead from a win total this year. Okay, if that's how you want to judge it. But when you talk of the thing I like, which you get into the defense, Brian Flores' expertise, his background is defense.
He doesn't like that.
And he's made that work. he's made that work. With
he does not like it. His expertise is not defense.
I get that, but I'm going to say Adam Gase didn't make the offense work, and that was his background. Joe Philbin didn't make the offense work. That was his background. Brian Flores is now, and so you know that's important. That's important. So, but ahead, to me, the past 20 years is about the quarterback. Okay, you get the quarterback. So we'll see where Tua is, and that's really, you get him help. You get the right coach now with him, but you got to succeed there for this rebuild to work. Okay, general manager Chris Greer and head coach Brian Flores did their end of the season wrap up, and the themes that stood out were: A, Tua is the starting quarterback. B, Ryan Fitzpatrick might have played his final game as a Dolphin. C, this team needs playmakers. Yeah. And the coordinators, they suggested everybody was coming back, which that gets into a little byplay between reporters and teams and coaches and how much they want to say. We now know everybody wasn't coming back. The other thing is Chris Greer thinks Brian Flores and his staff did a phenomenal job. Surprise, surprise. What GM doesn't think? But in this case, both of them could applaud the other one.
I'm pretty sure Chris Greer didn't think Adam Gase did a phenomenal job.
When they have a successful year, the GM thinks the coach does a good job. The GM thinks the coach thinks the GM. And in both situations, they're right this year. Both should be. Well, Flores should be considered for Coach of the Year. Greer, to me, next year would be his role as far as, Executive of the Year getting mentioned if everything stays on course.
I personally believe that while they are candidates and probably top 3 candidates for both Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year, I think the Bills will get it for both. The Bills, the turnaround, the transformation of that franchise has been phenomenal, and props to them. But Brian Flores did do a phenomenal job. Chris Greer did do a phenomenal job. The question is, what comes next? And we won't know that until we see what they do from an offensive standpoint in terms of the playmakers. We see who's going to be calling plays, offensive coordinator. We see the development of Tua. We see that offensive line, see if they can actually make progress from being average, which is how I would describe him, to taking that next step. And who knows what will happen this offseason? I don't think they even know.
See, that's why I would hesitate saying Greer, well, I think he's done a good job, Executive of the Year type job. They aren't out of the wilderness yet of this rebuild, okay? They aren't there. They still have and they didn't expect to be there. I mean, they set it up, this phase 2 coming up this offseason.
Yeah.
We'll decide, okay, where they go. Come back
phase
again.
3. This is phase 3, brother. This is phase 3, not 2. Let's.
I thought phase 1 was the tear down and the rebuild of the draft last year.
We got foundational pieces. That year counts. 2019 counts. I'm not throwing it out. You traded for Josh Rosen. It counts. Now let's see what you do from here. Our next question comes from Our next question comes from Dan White, who asks, "Who is?" Actually, no, I'm sorry. Our next question comes.
Let me take over. Alec Greenberg has a question. What lessons can we learn in the QB development from Ryan Tannehill's success in Kansas City?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. All of a sudden, I'm putting them up with the top quarterback in Tennessee. Shouldn't this be a clear indication that the Dolphins should add elite offensive talent?
Oh, so definitely. No question about it. The Ryan Tannehill that we saw playing for the Dolphins for 7 seasons is not the Ryan Tannehill that we see in Tennessee. It comes with maturation. It comes with life growth, struggles, probably a better market for him. And hell, let's be real about it. He's got the best running game in the NFL and one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I have always said with Ryan Tannehill, you need to be a run-first, play-action team, and you need to build him a brick wall. Well, Tennessee's got it. So that's why you're seeing the success. But should we learn lessons from it and apply them to Tua? Absolutely. Tua has to get better. He needs to get better. And the offensive line has to improve. And the run game has to improve. And without a doubt, to me, Najee Harris is a perfect fit, the guy who can help you get to that next level. And Tua has to develop. Tua has to get a better protection. And to me, Penei Sewell, custom fit, number 3 pick for me. Look at Dave.
Please. Do what the Colts did a couple years ago. This is a court. We're going to have months to talk about this, but I would trade the pick back, get more picks, get more poker chips, and you can still, if you trade back 1 to Atlanta, if you trade back 3 to as the Colts did for the Jets to take Sam Darnold, you can you get the guy you want and get poker chips to build. And that's how, to me, that's how teams in a rebuild do it. They go out and they bring in draft picks, they bring in top players, and they bring in system fit. So I get why everybody's talking about the Oregon tackle.
Come on, the Oregon tackle makes the offensive line better. Offensive line gets better, the run game gets better timing in the pocket to pass the football. The more possession you have, less defense plays. Offensive line, build the offensive line. Our next question comes from Dan White, who asks, who is the rookie of the year and your rookie with the most room for development, Dave?
We're talking Dolphins, and so to me, the rookie of the year is Austin Jackson. He was the one, to me, plug and play rookie that they had, and at left tackle, which is a premier. If you're not good, if you struggle, it's going to be obvious, okay? And so, and let's face it, there were a couple days, but there weren't many days where you sat there and you said, "Oh, Austin Jackson's struggling," and so that in itself,
okay, that's fair.
Is a good statement of his progress, and he had an injury there in the season too, and he came back from that.
To me, the rookie of the year is Tua, and the reason why Tua is the rookie of the year is because he led the team to 10-win season. And yes, he wasn't the best quarterback on the team, but as we said in the beginning of the year, argued by Dave Hyde, the most important thing about 2020 was Tua getting experience and gaining and lessons, and we know where he is and be able to build around him and strengths. If it wasn't for Tua, we wouldn't have developed all this stuff. I still believe in him. But to answer the question about the room for the most development, Raekwon Davis is a difference-making nose tackle. When he grows up, and it's funny to call a 6'7", 340-pound man not grown up, but when he becomes the player that he has the potential to be, we're talking probably Vince Wilfork. If he has the motor, the determination, the ability is there.
Well, that was the question in the draft, though, if he has the motor, right? I mean, potential is a dangerous word for anybody. How many of us reach our potential? I'm still struggling to get there.
You're a Hall of Famer. I think you've reached your potential, Dave. I think, and I don't want to sit here and question this guy's motor, but he's got second-round money. And you know money is always the motivating factor. If he is the player that he has the potential to be, he could be sitting on a $60 million contract. And that's being conservative.
Agent Omar is ready and willing to.
The question is, he's got to want it now. He's got to want it because, hell, a certain defensive lineman, Jordan Phillips, yeah, he's making $8 million a year.
You had to bring him up again. You know, he's going to come after you again. AB has an important question. Are you happy with what you saw from the rookies on the O-line? Omar, this is right up your alley. Did the Flowers and Karras signings also pay off, and any changes you'd make for 2021?
A lot of changes. The O-line is average. It was average all year. It finished the year average. Yes, they only allowed 1 sack at the end of the season. Here's my thing about the offensive line. They can't run block. And this is predominantly supposed to be a running team. RPO, the first letter in it is run. They can't run. And yes, you can add more talented backs, and that's certainly a priority. But without the holes, when you watch the Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry might have the first 4 yards, and then from the offensive line. Then he does what he does, that delivers a 2,000-yard season. Do you see any holes from this offensive line, Dave?
Well, Omar, I would say average. I think that's a good season for them. They started 3 rookies, 2 other new guys, and I would definitely take average. If you told me in September, by the end of December, they'd be average 250 yards. What was it rushing? Do I have that number right against New England? It was some crazy number like that.
Okay.
So I think they made progress. Is there another place for them to go? Sure. You start 3 rookies. You're hoping in year 2, all the investment you made in year 1 means a big jump in year 2. That's the whole game being played here in the Dolphins rebuild.
Let's hope. While it might have hurt to not be in the playoffs this year, keep in mind the Dolphins lost to 3 of the 4 teams that are actually participating in the postseason. The Bills swept Miami. The Seahawks beat the Dolphins at home convincingly behind the play of Russell Wilson, who kept exploiting a rookie cornerback. The Chiefs controlled the game despite all of Miami's turnovers that they were producing. And the Dolphins did manage to beat the Rams courtesy of some turnovers and good special teams play. But how far in your mind, Dave, are the Dolphins from making it into some postseason noise?
Making postseason noise?
Yeah. Isn't that the goal?
I mean, if we're talking contending for the big prize,
that's what we're talking about.
A long way from that. They have 1 elite player on the team, 1 Pro Bowl player on the team. Okay, when we see some of these draft picks develop into, Pro Bowl level games, then they're going to be there. But you don't get there. You don't say, oh, we're there with one Pro Bowl player. And also, I mean, let's be real. The quarterback, either through players around him getting a lot better, which that is exhibit number 1 on what's going to happen this offseason, or him getting better in year 2. Because again, they've invested 9-10 starts in him. Now we'll see. They've given him the job. You'll see the level he's got to jump to next year, or where he gets. When we're talking those 2 things, the roster having some Pro Bowl talent because the kids have grown up, and 2 has made a jump to top 10. Then you can start talking about, okay, they're contending.
Important question for you, Dave, and I'm throwing a wild card to you. Okay, we're very well aware that Xavier Howard is the most important player on this team, is the best player on this team. We'll figure out whether or not he's got a future with this team later. Top 5 players, excluding Xavier Howard. Who are they?
Top 5 players on the Dolphins, off the top of my head, or what are we talking? Talent,
upside, guys who are going to be Pro Bowlers.
Okay. Well, then guys who are going to be Pro Bowlers. Okay, on offense, do I see one? Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki has a chance with his receiving skills, and look, Travis Kelce is a receiving tight end.
I don't think he's a liability as a blocker, though. Just listen.
Okay, but you can see you can see him being a Pro Bowl player. Okay,
absolutely, no question.
And to be honest, the offensive lineman, I don't know yet. The one, if there's a disappointing, and I'm not sure I want to phrase it that way, but when greatness shows up, it's apparent usually right away. And I'm not saying rookie. I'm not saying at quarterback. I'm saying when Zach Thomas showed up that first preseason, you knew he was great. When Jason Taylor showed up, you knew he was great. Now it took Jason a few years to develop into consistent greatness, but So I'm not saying it can't develop. I'm not saying it can't develop. It can, and obviously.
Landry wasn't great at the beginning. I would argue to you Not a lot of guys. Larry Tunsil wasn't great at the beginning. I don't think greatness shows up and you
Larry
just
Tunsil great now? I mean, great?
one of the best tackles in the league.
Okay.
I mean, nobody's arguing about that.
Okay.
I mean, was he worth 2 first-round picks? That's not number 3. But yeah, it to me. And I'm appreciative that Chris Greer made a point of making two statements yesterday, because you know how they get programmed by the public relations staff, and Jason and his crew they did an amazing job of programming them what to say. 1, Tua is our starter. Chris Greer made the point of saying it twice. He's volunteering that, and I'm glad you pointed out in the column, because that was clearly the message that they wanted to get across to everybody, including free agents, draft picks, whatever. Tua is our quarterback. But the second one is, we need playmakers. We don't have enough playmakers. They don't have a single player on this defense that can actually beat a tackle or a guard and get to the quarterback consistently. Just about every sack of 41 sacks was free rushers from blitzing. Great defensive call, not that many playmakers. Offensively, how many big runs did we see? Maybe 3. That's a lot on the line, and I'm not disrespecting Myles Gaskin in terms of what he accomplished, but they need a better back. And wide receiver, good Lord. I don't know how many columns this year I wrote from day 1 or 2 of training camp that this receiving group is not going to get it. Jakeem Grant was the starting receiver for a good bulk of this season, and on any other team, he might be their 5th best receiver. That just tells you exactly where they are from a receiver standpoint. So you got to add to it. And I'm glad that Chris Greer mentioned that, because playmakers, hey, Steve Ross likes writing checks. If you want to be part of what they're building down here, jobs are open.
But that's the one good thing about, to me, this rebuild and where they're at, and you look at the milestone they're at now. It's very obvious what they need. I mean, it isn't like you go into the offseason and say, well, they need this here, and they really need this here. Yeah, if there is a world-class pass rusher at 3, I have no problem with taking him. They need greatness on the roster, but they have so many picks lined up right now. They can go out and rebuild their receiving core. They can get a top running back, and those are the things you expect them to come out of the offseason with.
Yeah. Max Field asks an important question: is Albert Wilson or Preston Williams in the Dolphins' long-term plans? And I'll throw in another receiver, Allen Hurns, who, those Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns are the 2 receivers who opted out of this season for COVID-related reasons, and they have every right to. But their contracts from 2020 carries over to next year. There's $1 million guaranteed into Albert Wilson, $1.25 million guaranteed to Allen Hurns. But Steve Ross has written bigger checks for guys to go away in terms of TJ McDonald.
Those checks aren't prohibitive.
Yeah, no. Steve Ross has written $6 million checks for guys to go away.
And Preston Wilson, yeah, of course, he's in their plans right now. Now, he's got to come back. He's got to come back healthy and in shape and all the obvious stuff. But is he in their plans? Why not? And the bigger question to me, Omar, is somebody like Devontae Parker. Is he in their plans? They have to invest $7-8 million, I believe, in him. And like with everything else in life, it's about options. Do you take that $8 million and goes? And I don't know. I haven't. We're just starting.
Everything else, Dave. Marriage about options? Maybe not everything else. Let's get to our next question. Kiss my bass ass, leading to your question. If we see Miami releasing Devontae Parker and signing Allen Robinson, and important question, Parker, props to him. He got his $750,000 bonus, which I think was huge, and props to them for making sure he got fed to the
halftime. Now they came out in the second half, and Devontae, I think, had 1 catch for 8 yards, something like the first half. In the first series of the second half, 4 catches for 61 yards. Did Devontae go over and say, "Hey, I'll split this with you"? Or what? I'm joking. No. They went, "We're trailing big. We need to throw the ball." And I think
Tua does not feel comfortable throwing to Devontae when he's covered. Fitz does. Fitz doesn't care. And that's been his game his entire career, going back to Buffalo and with the Jets. But here's the thing about
you know why? Just to cut you off, and I always thought with Devontae, it's playground football, and Fitz is very comfortable with that.
Yes.
You go down there and cut in, and I'll throw it up to you, and that's the game that Devontae likes to play. And,
yes.
And it's hard. It would be hard for a rookie quarterback to improvise almost like that on the run when you're used to
a part of the offense. And let's not be, Devontae's problem is availability and durability. It is every year. And it's same thing with Preston Williams, because Preston Williams has had 2 seasons end with an injury.
With Albert Wilson.
The Parker has $7.75 million guaranteed to him on March 18th. He's going to get a little under $8.5 million. And to sign a guy like Allen Robinson, who's talented but kind of the same receiver as Devontae Parker, and it's not that you don't need them, it's probably going to command $12 million a year. Why would I pay Allen Robinson $12 million a year to do the same thing I'm paying Devontae Parker for $8.5? And Preston Williams is the exact same receiver that Devontae is, that Allen Robinson.
To me, that's the issue, is Preston Williams and Devontae. Do you? And I'm not saying you don't want them both on the team, but if you're the offensive coordinator, how can you use them when they have such similar skill sets, similar size?
You can. You can in this RPO offense.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, and incorporated them with the other receiver, who has to be a speed guy. I mean, let's face it.
And this is important for Dolphin fans who are on the bang the drum for Devontae Parker to be released. Do you know how much cap space releasing Devontae Parker would create, Dave?
I think it's a few million.
$3 million. What can you buy with $3 million?
No. Look, Devontae is very productive when he's and the last couple of years he's been very available.
And he wanted to play those 2 games. The coaches kept him out. Not to say that they're wrong, but Devontae was really adamant about showing people that he could push through all of these injuries. But let's be real about it. You're going to get a 70% Devontae Parker for half of the season. That's just what he's shown you over the course of his career. Is that good enough? And is that worth $3 million in cap space?
Okay, OT has the next question of the offseason, the one we're going to be talking about for 4 months here. What offer should Miami consider if a team wants the 3rd overall draft pick?
I love this conversation, and we will be having it for the next 4 months. And it's an important conversation, because the Dolphins will never be drafting this high again if things go according to plan for what, the next decade, Dave?
I would hope, but assuming they don't make another trade for another first-round pick.
They've done it once a decade, when they took Jake Long at number 1, when they traded up for Deion Jordan, in whatever the year we wasted a pick on Deion Jordan.
2013.
Yeah, it's hard to get up that high. You got to be either really bad or give up a lot of collateral and capital to move up that high. And I believe you have to, without a doubt, either trade that for 3 first-round picks or take a guy you believe will be the cornerstone of what this rebuild is. Either Penei Sewell, the Oregon offensive lineman who sat out all season, and he better show up with some abs to that combine after a year of workout. LSU receiver Jamar Chase, who also sat out the season. And that's another element of this thing. We don't know how these executives feel about these players who should have played this season. And
they don't care, Omar. Why would the NFL care if a guy sat out his senior year if he's a great? They don't care. Like sit out a bowl. Go ahead. Who cares? People used to say, "Oh, the NFL is not going to look good." They don't care about that stuff.
I think it's important for these players to play at a high level when they know everybody's gunning for them, like Devontae Smith did. Everybody was gunning for him at Alabama, and he delivered. Now he's got a crap load of weapons on his team that helps him deliver, but he showed up, won the Heisman. To me, that's important. Jamar Chase we didn't see him play against double coverages. And we didn't see Penei Sewell perform with everybody gunning.
Omar, you want to take Sewell with the third pick.
Yep.
And you're saying, was sitting out a year, was that a problem for him? Of course it's not a problem. If you go the third pick overall, don't tell me it's a problem.
I want a top 5 player. I want a top 5 player. I don't care who it is, not even quarterback. And to me, he's clearly a top 5 player. No doubt about it. I watched him watching Justin Herbert, and I was like, yeah, that's a nice offensive tackle right there. So I've seen plenty to show me that he is a difference maker.
I'm gonna say also with the 3rd overall pick, you have to have it in the right year. Nick Saban had the 2nd overall pick in the wrong year. He didn't want to take a running back. He said afterwards, I didn't want to take a running back. It's unbelievable to me. But he took Ronnie Brown. Ronnie Brown's a great player. I mean, he was a fine player. He wasn't a 2nd overall. He wasn't a guy you say he's a 2nd overall draft pick. Okay, it was the wrong year. And so this is the right year.
Maybe it was the right year. He chose the wrong player.
This is the very right year. Look at this 2007 draft, Omar. There wasn't anybody. Before you credit. I know everybody wants to hop on that, but look at it. There really wasn't anybody there. But this is the right year to have a top 3 pick. There's 3 highly rated quarterbacks. There's teams that need quarterbacks. You are going to have, if you play your cards right, and there's no, Chris Greer's smart enough. He knows what's going on here a lot more than we do. He's going to have offers. Okay, and again, I mentioned 2018.
He didn't play it very well for a guy who's going to have offers. You don't come out and say, "Well, we're not taking a quarterback, number 3." Like if you,
does that matter? Does that matter?
It probably doesn't.
I don't think it matters. I think it was more important if you're going to go that route to tell Tua right now you are the man.
All right.
Tell everybody on the team he's the man. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
But
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think to keep this rebuild going and to keep pumping new blood into it, you have a chance to get one of those top receivers. Trade back 1 pick, 3 picks.
Hold on, Dave. Hold on. Put a pin in that. Is any of these top receivers Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald?
I don't know. I'm not a draft neck. I don't know, Omar.
They're not even Jerry Jeudy. So it's kind of like, do we fabricate and push them up just because they're a position of need? And I don't know how to view this draft, to be honest.
You're going to have a chance. Here's what I'm saying. You're going to have a chance to get a receiver.
Yes.
In the 1st round. I'm not saying, and I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take a draft. I'd trade back from 3. Look what Indianapolis did. They traded again with the Jets. In 2018, they traded back from 3 to 6. They got 3 second-round picks too. Okay. But my point is, you can pick up a pocketbook full of draft picks.
Yeah. Okay.
And get a impactful player at the same time.
So you're saying Chris Greer should have said number 3's for sale?
Yeah. There's no doubt that. Why wouldn't that? To me, was the message from yesterday too.
I agree.
We got a quarterback. Anybody else want a quarterback? We got the 3rd pick overall. Come and get it.
Okay, maybe that was the message that he was sending. Hey, I never looked at it that way, Dave. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we got. I actually like that. I thank you for it's out the box thinking. Chris Greer was saying, "Come get it. You want it, number 3? Come get it."
We aren't going to use it on a quarterback, but there are many teams, including the one at 4, Atlanta. They got a 36-year-old quarterback. You can go down that top 10. There's a lot of
playing till they're 40, Dave. Quarterbacks today are playing till they're 40. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Detroit is also in play. Matt Stafford's been trying to get out of there for years. What New England does. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But let's talk about the playoffs to finish off the show. Give me your AFC and NFC team, Dave, that's going to be playing in February.
NFC team is I gotta go with Green Bay, right? I mean, they're taught their games. Everything has to go through Lambeau Field, and if one of those dome teams like a Rams or somebody has to go, or a warm weather team. Jared Goff has to go to Lambeau Field. That won't be pretty. So Green Bay in the NFC, and I'll go with the Bills in the AFC. I get that.
Bills. You going with the Bills?
The Chiefs are the chalk. Everybody, but so I'll go with the Bills. I love what they did in their rebuild.
You're right.
And we just saw them Sunday, and so maybe there's a little bit of that.
They put a smackdown on.
But the key to the Bills, they just added John Ford this last game, and their offense is at a different level when he plays on it, because all of a sudden you can't put all your resources on Stephon
Not
Diggs.
just John Brown. Look at Gabriel Davis and who? What's that? Not acquaintance. The kid from Miami that Miami got a sign.
Heritage Plantation, yeah, who took Nick Needham to task a couple times.
Took him out to the woodshed. I would love that guy here in Miami. What is his name?
I'm drawing a blank too. Let's not call attention to our ignorance, Omar. But thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to pick the Seahawks. I pick the Seahawks every damn year to make it out of the NFC, and they never make it. But I'm gonna stay consistent. This is the year. Russell Wilson's gonna do it again. But I don't think he's going to win the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City, Buffalo probably. Kansas City is the best overall team that I've seen this season. Buffalo is the best offense that I've seen, but I don't think their defense is special. But I'm going to put Kansas City because they can put a whooping on you in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They can just turn a switch on and it's over. So, all right, we are going to tell you that this is the season wrap for X's and Omar, but it's not the wrap for the show. We will be back next week and throughout the playoffs as long as you guys keep coming and watching. X's and Omars is found on the Sun Sentinel website and on podcasting sites wherever you find your podcast. Just search X and Omar. And also you can find us answering your questions on the Dolphins Q&A on the Sun Sentinel's Dolphins page. Dave, always a pleasure. And I will see you next Wednesday at noon.
All right, Omar. That was a long one.
Yes, it was.
We get carried away there or what?
The first segment ran like 22 minutes because we shoved in that Chan Gailey talk, and it went super long. But I think it was important and it was very timely. You might want to just cut that out in itself and put it with